Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us, and good morning to those of you in the States. I really want to express my appreciation to the company representatives who are joining us here today, and also to my colleagues, John Bridenstine and Lieutenant Colonel Joel Johnson, who set this up for us. So thank you both. The importance of Thailand in the bilateral context and the Indo-Pacific in the global context are very clear. With 60% of the world's population, 40% of global GDP, and 28% of total goods and services trade, the Indo-Pacific is projected to be the largest contributor to global growth in the next 30 years. In the years ahead, the region will drive as much as 2/3 of global economic growth. Foreign direct investment in the region from the United States totaled more than $969 billion in 2020 and has nearly doubled in the last decade. Additionally, the United States is encouraging shared prosperity in the region through the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, or IPEF for short, a novel framework that allows the US and the 13 partners, including Thailand, to deepen economic engagement and address the global challenges confronting our countries. Thailand's geographic location and the incentives and benefits offered by the Board of Investment, particularly in the Eastern Economic Corridor, make Thailand especially attractive for US companies. Many Fortune 500 and smaller US companies are thriving in Thailand, leveraging the country's strategic location to optimize supply chains, skilled labor, and raw materials inputs. Defense cooperation is a foundation of the Thai-US relationship, which has already lasted 190 years. The most visible symbols of the US-Thai Defense Alliance are our annual exercises, like Cobra Gold, Hanuman Guardian, and Cope Tiger. But our relationship is much deeper than annual exercises. Thailand is a major non-NATO ally, and the Secretary of Defense stated last year that standing alongside Thailand to grow their domestic defense industry is a top 3 priority for the United States. Our goal this evening is to give you insight into the Thai economy and the defense industry here. As you'll hear, the time is right for launching or expanding your business activities in Thailand. We stand ready to work with you at the US Embassy, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Gwen, for your time and insights. Our next speaker, Charlie Blocker, is the founder and CEO of IC Partners Limited, a financial advisory firm with a focus on online startups that also serves as an investment manager for a number of industrial, technology, and hospitality-related joint ventures in Southeast Asia. Charlie also currently serves as a governor and vice president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Thailand. Charlie, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Brian, and welcome everybody. I want to say that Thailand remains probably one of the most strategic destinations for U.S. investment capital in the ASEAN region. And historically, the Eastern Seaboard, some of you may know it by that name, has been revitalized over the last 7 or 8 years by the leadership in the government, in the business community, both Thailand and, of course, the foreign investment community. And it is now known as the Eastern Economic Corridor, or the EEC. And it is, if you can see on the map, some of you may or may not have been to Thailand, but it is, it's fronting along the Gulf of Thailand, and it's really right in the center of the whole ASEAN region. I guess the real purpose here is making a 21st century economic area that's comprised of these 3 provinces you can see here on the map. But then the connectivity, leveraging roads, and these are not just 4-lane roads, these are 8 and 12-lane roads that connect the major commercial arteries from the capital up in Bangkok all the way down to the eastern seaboard to the Gulf of Thailand. The air is also critical, uniting, if you can see here in the map, there is a rail that runs from Bangkok, where they have 2 major international airports, the historical one, Don Mun, which you may have traveled to before, BKK, which is Suvarnabhumi, all the way down to Utapao, which is a legacy airport from the Vietnam War, but it is now a very commercial commercially minded, and it's those three airports, along with the rail connectivity, the high-speed rail connectivity, comprise what's known as the Aerotropolis, linking all that. And of course, you have the deep sea port. Next slide, please. Thank you. So making Thailand relevant, of course, there are foreign investment all throughout the Kingdom of Thailand, but the EEC really has gotten the most attention from the government and the private sector, and I guess infrastructure makes up that, with the logistics being able to get quickly around the region, whether that's containers, shipping, supply chain, or indeed people. It's also a tourist destination, a lot of leisure, but the Utapao Airport, now that we're getting past the COVID period, will soon be taking more domestic and international passengers, as well as freight rail. The high-speed rail, we were just at the office of the EEC yesterday, the American Chamber, and it looks to be online for 2028, a little bit of slippage, but still very much online. We'll have 9 stations that connect all 3 airports and other industrial areas. In this area of the digital world that we're in, so that there's been a significant amount of investment in the digital infrastructure, including 5G, fiber optic cable. And then last but not least is indeed a lot of R&D and basically at its core innovation infrastructure, not only led by Thai companies, but many of the foreign companies that are here, with Japan, China, and the United States sort of being in those top 3 positions in terms of investment. Next slide, please. Yep. So there are 12 target industries. You can see these will be available to you. If you look at the on the bottom there in the middle to the right, you see defense. This is defense actually leverages on this whole broader ecosystem across the other 11 industries, so that deal with soft assets, hard assets, technology. But maybe next slide, I think we'll really drill down on really what's most relevant to the defense industry here. So many of the companies that are here that are Thai-owned, or some of the U.S. and other companies we call what would be dual-use technology. So for consumer and commercial use, and then indeed defense. And they're primarily, as you see there, the aviation and logistics, intelligent electronics. So these are appliances you'll be hearing from one of the leaders in just a moment. And then moving on to automotive, and then robotics and digital. But this leads to the type of products that indeed Thailand is focused on and incentivizing. So next slide, please. Looking at the back onto the map, the arms and defense industry really remains as a priority industry here. As Gwen had mentioned too, Thailand also enjoys major non-NATO ally status, and this permits U.S. defense contractors, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, to actually build and joint venture license throughout these various areas here in Thailand. Next slide, please. Yep. So there are a number of very important incentives that come along with investing in Thailand through the Thailand Board of Investment, which works very closely with the EEC, the Eastern Economic Corridor Office. But really, I guess there's certainly the tax incentives, whether you're 750 million euros or more, you can still manage the 15% tax minimum. But I think it's really the qualitative benefits of being able to have foreign ownership, land ownership, and then the ease of your company lifestyle, and that's having an investment center, one-stop visa systems. These are really standout items in contrast to other ASEAN nations here in Southeast Asia. The Board of Investment is very keen, and they have a very strong bench of engineers that actually help process your application and try to get you the best approval in the best place. So I think that's my last slide. You can go to the next one. John, you want to?
Sure. Thank you there, Charlie. Our next presenter, John Bridenstine, is the Minister Counselor for Commercial Affairs and ASEAN Regional Senior Commercial Advisor, Officer, pardon me. John will be leading a discussion with Ben Dobbs, Managing Director of Alliance Laundry Systems, APAC, and Greg Bastian, Managing Director for Borg Warner PDS in Thailand. Ben and John will share their experiences with developing operations in Thailand. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
No, thank you so much. As was mentioned, my name is John Bridenstine, and I am the Regional Senior Commercial Officer based here in Bangkok, but covering all of the ASEAN region from here with the Department of Commerce at the U.S. Embassy. And we're basically here to promote U.S. exports, facilitate foreign direct investment back into the United States, but then also to protect or to advocate on behalf of U.S. business interests. And that's really the role that I'm playing here tonight, is to talk to you and to the two colleagues that I have here from Alliance Laundry Systems and Borg Warner, a little bit about doing business here in Thailand, and specifically in the Eastern Economic Corridor, and the kinds of benefits that U.S. companies can derive from establishing a presence here in Thailand. So with that, I want to turn it over first to Ben Dobbs, as was noted, the Managing Director for Alliance Laundry Systems, and then I'll turn it over to Greg. And I would like to ask each one of them to talk a little bit about, what brought them here, what brought their companies here. Did they consider other markets? And if so, what were the factors that made them decide on Thailand? So Ben, turn it over to you first, and then to Greg.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, John. Good morning, most of you, afternoon, evening, for the rest of us. It's really a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about Thailand and what attracts businesses to Thailand, especially to an audience like this. I, as advertised, currently work for Alliance Laundry Systems. Alliance are a Wisconsin-based, Alliance Laundry are a Wisconsin-based, over 100 years old, industrial laundry equipment provider. You can see on the slide there, the equipment that Alliance provides is all commercial grade. Your vend laundrette style equipment, as well as on-premise laundry equipment. So very commercial grade products. Myself, I have been in the region in Southeast Asia for the last 15 years. Originally came here with Parker Hannifin, for the last 5 years with Alliance. So if I talk a little bit about what attracted Alliance, and also to some extent to Parker when I came over 15 years ago, but certainly Alliance did have other markets that they looked at. Vietnam was on their radar. Did a lot of due diligence in both markets, both regions. Settled on Thailand, and when we talk about the factors that make Thailand, I say, easier to work in, easier as an industrial manufacturing company, I think the highlights tend to be the background. Thailand, especially the EEC, has a very strong automotive manufacturing. Greg, you'll hear from, has spent a lot of time in that, so I won't steal much of his thunder. But, along with that, there's a 30 plus, nearly 40 years of structure in that market, in manufacturing, even older than that. And that brings a very strong supply chain base in a very densely populated manufacturing area. Over 2,500 industrial manufacturing facilities in a fairly small area, you can see on the map there, and it really drives that strong supply chain. It gives you a huge amount of confidence in being able to manage a business, manage a manufacturing business from a local supply and low cost base. And it's a huge advantage. We for example, in Alliance, one of our product lines, the washer extractor line, I'll take that for example, we are now 85% local content within 4 years of manufacturing. So that kind of pace, and even to some extent increasing your quality, But, you know, that cost base of not, you know, being a traditional kind of, you're manufacturing, you're bringing product in, you're bringing raw material in, and you're taking advantage of labor. Now you're taking advantage of the whole supply chain. So I'll pull that. I'm sure Greg will pull other things.
That's great. So Greg, over to you. Same question. Just introduce yourself a little bit and talk a little bit about why, you know, Borg Warner or maybe some of your previous companies have come to Thailand and what other countries they may have considered in the region.
All right. I'm Greg Basson. I graduated from West Point, put 10 years in as an airborne ranger, 82nd Airborne, and the Charzay mentioned the Secretary of Defense. He used to be my boss. I've run factories in Detroit, in rural Michigan, and then also launched factories in Brazil, and then 2 factories here at Borg Warner and American Axle. The reason, you know, we come here is because, as Ben mentioned, this area in the Eastern Economic Corridor is known as the Detroit of the East. All right. So during the Vietnam War, the U.S. General Motors actually had a factory in Bangkok. And when the U.S. pulled out, then GM pulled out. And the Japanese automotive manufacturers, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, they moved in and used the infrastructure that the U.S. had put in to support the war. And they used that to essentially develop the supply base that you're looking for. I mean, the supply base in Thailand on the automotive side is amazing. I've localized, when I was with my prior employer, we went from 57% localization up to 90% within 5 years. And that was just by bringing product. We went from buying product from my sister facilities to bringing it in here. And we ended up selling the product after localizing it here and doing the assembly and being able to ship it overseas. Key items that, you know, that I consider in this area in the Eastern Economic Corridor are really the supply base and also the technical capability of the team. Very devoted, but I will say this, you know, I mean, if I task, and the engineering team to reduce cycle time from 59 seconds down to 32 seconds, they did it with minimal CapEx. And honestly, both American Axle, we ended up being the #1 in quality for the entire corporation worldwide, and we were #1 with Borg Warner as well. And that's after launching a product that we're shipping halfway around the world to Michigan assembly plant. The team here, on Charles' side, I mean, actually Alliance came in. They actually toured my factory, my prior employer, and after touring the factory, they decided to make the move based on what they saw. There's another company that I'm not going to put out there, but they did not want to talk to me as the managing director, but they came in, and once they saw, they said they just wanted to talk to my Thai staff. And that company, which is based in Missouri, you know, Charles has told me they're going to make the move, right? They just wanted to talk to the Thai staff, from everybody from HR through finance through engineering, and the people are what make the difference. I have put factories in around the world, and the fact is the people here, very technically competent.
Yeah, that's great, Greg. I mean, I think both of you have already talked a good bit about the Eastern Economic Corridor and the things that it offers, but anything else you want to say about specific benefits? You've talked about infrastructure to a certain extent. You know, both of you have touched on localization, and I would ask you with regard to whether you source from other parts of Thailand or Cambodia, Laos, or some of the other countries in Southeast Asia. Thailand's location, its geography, where it is, how does that benefit operations and supply chains, not just fed through localization and through Thailand, but some of the other areas? But you both referenced the labor pool and how critical that is here. And anything that you could say about comparing, you know, the labor pool here and maybe some of the other countries that companies that are online today might be considering. So we can just talk a little bit about the EEC, talk about the geography of Thailand and how that benefits, you know, supply chains here, and then a little bit more maybe about the labor pool or other benefits that attracted you here, but also kept you here. Greg, why don't we start with you on this one, and then we'll go to Ben after that.
Yeah, so geography, if you're looking at it, I would say the two locations are Vietnam and Thailand. I think Thailand's the best because Thailand has a better infrastructure by about 300%, and the government supports the investment. Labor pool, the labor pool I already mentioned. I mean, the best HR manager I've ever had is here from one company, and the best finance manager that I ever had is from here. And I've had many. So engineering wise, the engineers, controls engineers, top notch. Quality wise, the best quality manager I ever had was at American Axle. You have the labor pool here, and geographically, when you compare, you know, my companies have both companies in the ASEAN region had looked at like Indonesia as a cheaper labor source, but the problem is the supply chain. Thailand is located in, you know, central ASEAN. So you can bring product if you want a supplier. You know, I'm working with my purchasing team to bring like tier 2 suppliers from Vietnam, really not Cambodia, more Vietnam, to bring product into, you know, to support us to lower cost.
Great. Thanks. Ben?
Yeah, I spent a couple of years working in Vietnam, actually managing a steel coating mill for an Australian company. So having had manufacturing experience, I'd say, you know, on the back of what Greg has talked about, I kind of used to describe the experiences of working in Thailand and dealing with the people, and Greg's really gone into depth. And I would just add that the Thai workforce is extremely engaged as a workforce, and really it kind of goes back. It's almost like going back in time a little bit to where people really love what they do on a daily basis, and sometimes that's hard to see anymore. But really, you genuinely see that on a day-to-day basis in Thailand, and that's why we do have these experiences of working with the best people that we've had before, because they just really get what you're trying to do, and you know, and they show that they care. So I've had that experience, and I would say that that's probably what was lacking in a place like Vietnam. Vietnam still feels a little bit cold in manufacturing. It's very authoritarian still as a culture. So your supervisory levels in Vietnam, you know, it is just do what I say and that's it. That reduces your innovation. So in a factory, a lot of people won't step out of the box unless you're really promoting it to engage them, because they'd just be too afraid simply of repercussions at a supervisory level in a manufacturing facility. So it brings challenges. It's also a reason why I think Vietnam is very focused on, and I think, John, we were talking a bit earlier about these very high volume, very high staffed up factories in the kind of markets as, you know, the clothing industry, the shoe manufacturing. You have 3,000 people in a factory. It's just really a chicken farm. You've got 50 people coming in and out every day. You know, at that point, there isn't really an engagement piece because it's just masses of people. And that would be the big difference. If you really have a skilled, high-tech industry, there are challenges. There are challenges developing the staff. That was my experience with Vietnam. Very quickly touch on the geography point. From a localized supply chain, and we had the same experience as Greg did. We are now supplying a large number of components that we localized here in Thailand, proved out, validated out, and then from a quality function, the US have now, because they're getting a cost benefit, plus newer tooling, better quality, they're buying those components out of our Thailand suppliers directly, and it just shows the strength in that supply chain. But we also have, from an infrastructure perspective that Charlie's mentioned, there are 2 ports. They're building a new port in Bangkok, so there'll be 3 ports in Bangkok. Air, rail, and everything's within 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So from the inland transit perspective, which is one of those things we often forget about, and from my experience supplying product into Australia, you know, it's the most expensive part of it. And when we're bringing product out of Wisconsin, the inland transit piece, well, that was one of the slowest parts of recovery in the logistics crisis, was the inland transit and the rail challenges in the US. And so you don't have that. And so again, it's straight to port. And so that inland piece, you can forget about. And so from your inbound material requirements, but more importantly, your export requirements to your customers, it really is ease of mind.
I mean, you mentioned about the challenges. I mean, obviously we've all had challenges during the pandemic and otherwise. You know, Charlie mentioned about the EEC office, mentioned about the incentives, mentioned about the Board of Investment, BOI. So what I would like to ask you, Ben, and then we'll turn it back to Greg, and that is looking at some of the challenges that you've experienced, whether related to the pandemic or otherwise, how has the government been in terms of responding to your needs or the challenges that you're facing? And have they been open to suggestions, or how have you found a working relationship with the government to deal with some of the challenges that your companies have faced here in Thailand?
Yeah, and it's a great question. And until you kind of scope what's happened in the region, it's hard to appreciate what Thailand was like during the pandemic. We didn't shut our factory down for a day. They had very structured methodology behind it. They were working with you as an employer and not working against you. So there was no, Thailand had a lockdown for 2 to 3 months at the initial period. And even during that, it was apply, demonstrate your protocols, get approval to manufacture, create social distancing. If you had a positive COVID cases, they would actually come and audit the factory. And even at that point, there was ways around. They were offering, and with large manufacturing plants, they were suggesting and offering to be able to create a campus. So if you had a lot of cases, those cases would be quarantined, but you could actually create a campus on site and keep manufacturing. So I think the key with that was that they really were, and maybe at the time we weren't appreciative of it, but very proactive, and they weren't, it wasn't demanding. They absolutely came and worked with you. They would audit your plant, they would make recommendations, and they would even suggest you were doing too much. And perhaps we were guilty as a manufacturing plant of quarantining too many people because as we had determined our safety measures and how we wanted to ensure that we kept going, they helped us read through it and make suggestions that meant that we didn't have so many people off site at times. So, good experience.
Great. Greg, how about you?
Hey, I just want to pull back about the engagement that Ben was talking about of the employees. I'll be honest, because, it's a defense industry we're talking to. My staff, we have a morning meeting with all salary employees on the floor every day, and we go through safety, quality, delivery, and then we get into other issues. Just so you know, though, I mean, when we had an issue, and this was more for fun and engagement, not for punishment, I pulled my staff up to the front and we did push-ups. And I'm telling you, I mean, I can show you the video. The factory is spotless, but I'm just, but that was really just to demonstrate to the entire salary team that we're engaged to what Ben was talking about. When you talk about the pandemic, we never shut down. We did not shut the doors one day. There was no work from home. I don't accept that. The operators are on the floor. They have to be there. The salary team needs to be there too. You can't have two sides of the coin. right? So as far as working with the government, I never had an issue with the government. We had a good testing policy. We tested people every day, and we ended up, without an issue. We actually launched a major projects during the pandemic without a problem.
No, that's great. We could go on, and I've got a whole list of other questions that I want to ask you guys, but maybe we can come to it if there's some time at the end or during the Q&A period. But I would like to ask each one of you, and Greg, we'll start with you and then go to Ben. If there's one thing you wanted the companies listening today to take away from this session about doing business in Thailand and why Thailand, what would that one thing be, Greg, that you would leave them with?
Coming here, my major concern was the capability of the workforce. But I will tell you, the people here on not just the salary level, but the technical level, down to the job leaders, the team leaders, and the operators, the best I've worked with.
Great to hear. Okay. Ben, over to you.
Same thing. I'm going to go back to what Greg said at the start about quality. I mean, one of the takeaways and the real story that tells is that we had during the supply chain crisis, they asked the Thailand plant to backfill volume that they needed in North America. Huge concern from the North American customers buying a Thai manufactured product versus a US manufactured product. We had providing them with discount incentives to take the product. 3-4 months later, it's better than what you make in the US. So it is, and it's confidence. I would say the easiest way to take it, I mean, there is an ease of manufacture and ease of doing business. And Thailand as a country wants to work with you and for you. I mean, Charlie talked about the BOI. I have nothing but compliments and praise. I've been lucky to be involved with companies who are BOI every year I've worked in Thailand.
That's Board of Investment.
Excuse me, sorry, yeah, the Board of Investment that Charlie mentioned on slide, whichever number. And it really is an extremely well-run outfit and very, very proactive.
I would say, just in wrapping up, I mean, these guys are obviously a great resource. If you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the very end. Because again, I think, these are resources that we don't want to let slip away. But we, through the American Chamber of Commerce, through the U.S. Embassy, we stand ready to answer your questions and to work closely with you to help you get the information that you need to make the decisions that you need to make. So with that, I want to thank Greg and Ben for your time this evening, and turn it over to you all back in the States.
Fantastic. Yes, thanks again, John, Ben, and Greg. Appreciate that. As John did mention, if you have any questions, please feel free to utilize the question and answer box, which should be located on the right-hand side of your screen. Thank you again. Our final presenter today, Richard Jackson, is Managing Director and co-founder of Jackson Grant Industrial and Executive Search. Richard will be focusing on recruiting a workforce in Thailand. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here today, and thank you for inviting me to share more insights into Thailand's human resources. I think the previous speakers have done an admirable job of setting the stage. So yeah, thanks for sharing as well, guys. So just from a personal perspective, I've been in Thailand around 15 years now. I've been in all that time advising multinational companies on setting up operations in Thailand from a staffing and people perspective. My company, Jackson Grant, helps to build mid to senior level teams for multinational manufacturing and related supply chain companies. But more importantly and pertinent to today's conversation, since 2016, I've been the co-chairman of the HR committee for the American Chamber of Commerce in Thailand, a fantastic organization and definitely one to get in touch with for anyone thinking of making the step. Okay, could we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so today what I'm going to do is give a bit of an overview. It's a huge topic, people, and we've got a lot to get through. But I want to give a bit of an overview before I go into what exactly how Thailand is promoting, particularly in STEM areas, the types of talent that we're going to be looking for manufacturers looking to set up here, and really some of the out of the box and innovative methods that we've got to really promote that. And then I'm going to go into a few case studies as well. We probably won't have time to go into everything, but I'll cover what we can. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of where we're at today, Thailand's existing talent pool has a total employed labour force of just under 39 million people. This accounts for about 97% of total potential labour force in the country. So unemployment isn't really a thing in Thailand. People want a job, they have a job, and so again, it's definitely a little bit different to what we might expect from a US market. Pertaining specifically to the topic in hand, the Office of National Higher Education and Science Research and Innovation Policy Council forecasted that between 2020 to 2024, the labour market in Thailand will be looking to recruit around 29,000 positions for aviation logistics, 12,000 for advanced automotive, 10,000 for the robotics sector, over 6,000 jobs in AI, and over 5,000 jobs in defence and the security sector. So there is a wealth of these jobs coming, and the sector is growing very quickly. Therefore, the government knows we need to prepare and react to that. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the previous speakers have referred to this Eastern Seaboard area, the Eastern Economic Corridor, which includes Chachoengsao, Chonburi, Rayong, the Detroit of the East, as Greg referred to it. So the majority of advanced technology and manufacturing skilled workforces are concentrated in this area. In total, there's about 2.2 million employed workers there. The manufacturing sector, including automotive, auto parts, aerospace, electrical and electronics, chemical and plastics, and oil and gas, accounts for a significant portion of the workforce in each of these areas. Around 37% of the total labour force in Chachoengsao, 22% in Chonburi, and 42% of the labour force in Rayong. Around 623,000 of the employed workforce in this area has completed higher education to diploma level or above, while around 560,000 of that workforce has received high school degrees. In the Eastern Seaboard alone, machinery and general manufacturing employs around just over 500,000 people. So the tier 2 and tier 3 levels of the supply value chain is a real key strength in this particular area. Next slide, please. In terms of where we're going next, as of 2021, Thailand has a total of 1.9 million students enrolled in higher education. This is about 2.65% of the total population. So to compare that to the US, where it's about 5.8%, there's still some room to grow. And again, we're seeing that other areas of education are emerging, maybe not your traditional high school, university part, but I'll come on to that in a bit. So currently 1.3 million students are studying at undergraduate level, and around 140,000 students in Thailand will be graduating or studying from master's degrees and doctorate degree levels in the next couple of years. Currently, we've got about 370,000 students enrolled in vocational education, and this really is a vital part of the system. I'll be digging into that in depth in a few minutes. And on top of that, there's about 1.6 million in non-formal school systems or short course training. In terms of the types of study they're doing, the biggest sector, as typically in most countries, is business management, economics and law. That's the lion's share of about 31% of total graduates. But this is strongly followed by majors in engineering and manufacturing, which comprise about 13% of all graduates. It's a very, very key part of Thailand's philosophy, and that's what's helping to support the manufacturing programs. Additionally, Thailand has a total of just 300,000 graduates per year in vocational education programs, and industrial technology accounts for about 46% of this total. Next slide, please. Next slide, that's the one, thank you. Okay, so with aspirations to become a fully developed nation by 2035, Thailand has realized it needs to make huge strides in innovation to become a hub for artificial intelligence, robotics, biosciences, aerospace, and other new pillars of what is frequently termed the world's fourth industrial revolution. In 2016, the Thai government launched the economic vision that the other speakers referred to, known as Thailand 4.0, and a series of strategies to support the Eastern Economic Corridor Corridor, a digital hub of Southeast Asia covering the 3 provinces outside of Bangkok. To achieve the vision, Thailand will need to fill 475,000 new jobs by 2023 in the EEC alone, and this will require a bachelor's degree or higher, and the rest is increasingly sophisticated vocational skills. In an effort to meet these lofty goals, the government has merged 4 separate government departments into a new Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. The new ministry is working very closely with the private sector in Thailand and overseas to increase research and human resources development. And I'm going to give you some of those examples shortly. Next slide, please. So the speakers beforehand have given you a lot of information on this sector already. The BOI, the Board of Investment, is a fantastic department of the government that's looking to incentivize companies to provide tax incentives for companies, particularly as well in manufacturing, but in human resource development, specifically businesses that invest in the creation of educational and vocational training institutions focused on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They receive corporate income tax exemption for a period of up to 5 years. Additionally, the BOI will offer smart visas. This grants various privileges to foreign investors, their families, and essential professionals in business, science, and education. These privileges also include the ability to reside in Thailand for up to 4 years without the requirement of retaining a work permit. So a big boost for companies that are looking to invest. Next slide, please. Just a quick one here as well. For companies specifically donating to earmarked categories of human resource development, there are also significant additional cap incentives, HR development funds, education institutes, training and R&D centres. Again, I've got another example coming up that we can dig in. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Thailand Board of Investment has established a partnership with Thailand's Research Universities Network. This is a consortium of 8 prominent research universities in the country. The objective of this agreement is to enhance that exchange of research and development information. The primary focus is to promote collaboration in demand-driven R&D activities driven by the private sector, cooperative education programs, and the recruitment of highly skilled professionals. The BOI has emphasized that this agreement strengthens the BOI's role in facilitating cooperation between businesses and academic institutions. The goal is to promote research and development in Thailand, ultimately enhancing the competitiveness of local manufacturers in key technologies. Furthermore, fostering these collaborations between local and foreign educational institutes and the private sector is playing a crucial role in supporting the development of human resources. This collaboration is instrumental in driving STEM courses and programs, ensuring that the workforce is equipped with the necessary skills and knowledge demanded by the industry. Next slide, please. Thailand's educated businesses are also harnessing other Asian and European vocational educational expertise. One of the world's leading education companies, UK-based Pearson, is currently working with the EEC to develop customized programs that offer B.Tech diplomas awarded by Britain's Business and Technology Education Council. This is being rolled out across both public and private sectors via every vocational and higher education institution in Thailand. The key objective is to equip students with the skills required by targeted industries, including automotive, aerospace, defense, digital, healthcare, and robotics. Next slide, please. So what you see here is just a brief sample of some of the collaborations that are happening between local and foreign educational institutions on STEM work. So collaborations between local and foreign educational institutes and the private sector is a really essential drive to support human resource development in Thailand. King Mongkut Institute of Technology, one of the leading technical colleges here, is based on Bangkok's outskirts, a bit near the airport. And they teamed up a couple of years back with Pittsburgh's Carnegie Mellon University. In 2019, CMKL University, that joint venture, launched its first master's and doctoral programs in computer and electrical engineering. Bangkok's Thammasat University and Amata Universities in the EEC have both partnered with National Taiwan University, while Vidya Siddhi Medi Institute of Science and Technology, which is funded by Thailand's biggest company, Fortune 500 ranked PTT, is in collaboration with leading Japanese, Korean, and European educational institutions with the aim of becoming a world-class university and center of cutting-edge innovation. Bangkok's Burapha University has combined with Japan's Mitsubishi Electric Factory Automation to develop and accelerate education standards in automation technology using AI and industrial robots to operate intelligent factory operations. Thailand's education reforms stress the importance and the status of vocational studies, as I mentioned before. And one of the best examples is the collaboration between Kallman and Japan's National Institute of Technology. They've opened a tertiary engineering school offering world-class vocational training provided by the Japanese Kosen Technical College system. The Kosen KMITL, bit of a mouthful as it's known, teaches a 5-year course from the age of 15 that produces engineers qualified in mechatronics, a combination of electrical and mechanical engineering that underpins a lot of the work that they're doing in robotics and AI. Okay, so plenty of examples there. Happy to follow up with more otherwise. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, lots more examples here, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to pick out a couple. So on the top left there, Chevron. The Thailand Partner Initiative is an 8-year, $35 million public-private partnership program by Chevron Thailand Exploration and Production, aimed at strengthening Thailand's competitiveness and innovation by improving STEM education. BMW has had a long-standing partnership with the Don Bosco Technical College to produce specifically engineers to make high-quality, world-leading automotive. And not surprisingly, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen significantly more portions of BMW's value chain, new models of car and OEM production coming to Thailand from other parts of the world. The German parts maker and industrial services company Robert Bosch has invested about 1.7 billion baht, which is about $50 million in automotive research and a development center in the Eastern Seaboard, specifically to accommodate its growth in the region, and will be deploying those engineers to other parts of its operations around Asia from Thailand. Next slide, please. So I think the previous speakers covered a lot of the different aspects. In particular, I do draw it back to the skilled labor pool. In comparison to other areas of ASEAN, Thailand's engineering capability and the manufacturing skills that we have here are still significantly ahead of anyone in the region, bar Singapore. The labor costs are still very competitive. And while English language has been a bit of a challenge before, with the new generation of workers coming into the workforce, this is becoming less and less of a problem. From an HR perspective, Thailand's rich in people assets, and if you can engage the staff, the benefits are stark for multinational manufacturers looking to unlock the current most exciting geography on the global business map. Next slide, please. Just wanted to finish off with a case study. This is a very, very complex US company that is headquartered in the US, set up operations here about 20 years ago. The company makes very high-tech optomechanical and electrical assemblies. They make some unique products, including lasers, photonics, etc. Over the past 15 to 20 years, they've now expanded their business up to 15,000 headcount just in Thailand across 2 sites, and the plan will be to double that in the next 5 to 10 years. If we can go on to the next slide. As you can see, to produce this type of equipment, they need an absolute array of engineering technology. A lot of it is core IP and needs to be invented from scratch, or as an MPI is almost a daily activity for them. You can see that if you're going to develop a workforce that significant and that detailed and that technologically advanced, to be able to do that in Thailand, I don't think you'd be able to match that anywhere else in the ASEAN region. So again, just a real point in case as to what can be achieved with the right approach. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you very much. I just wanted to say, with such a strong commitment to human resource development, Thailand's target of boosting innovation, focused foreign investment, and achieving their national status of developed economy by 2025 is looking increasingly attainable. And just a quick mention as well to Tractus Asia for helping provide the business, the research that we put together today. They do provide a lot of business matching services and partner for market entry. So if anybody wants to contact them via Jackson Grant or myself, please be in touch. Thank you very much, guys. Looking forward to the Q&A.
All right, many thanks there, Richard. We're going to move along to the question and answer session. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them on the main screen. We have had 1 or 2 come in via email. First question, whoever wants to take it, please feel free. What are the main technologies that can be used in defense applications in Thailand?
But I mean, from my side, anything as far as manufacturing goes, I mean, you can go technical, you can go welding, you can go machining.
They're looking for unmanned systems as number one. Okay.
I'm sorry?
Keep going, Greg. Sorry. Apologies. Our end.
No, I mean, machining wise, you can drop anything in here and you're down to, your micron level of machining capability, heat treat, metallurgy, welding. That is not a concern. It's on my side, just with my experience. I cannot speak to the semiconductor or technical portion. That's not my area, but just from the base manufacturing, I mentioned before, we moved production from 59 seconds down to 32 seconds with about $5,000 of CapEx just by the capability of my team now.
Very good. Thank you. Another question here. Since the pandemic, as companies look to diversify their Asia-based supply chains, have you seen increased interest in the Thai market? And if so, where are those companies coming from? Any particular sectors, and why are they landing there in Thailand?
Yeah, I can quickly take that from certainly from the industrial estate activity that we've seen. And Charlie, I think you might want to backfill on the previous question. We can do that right after. The industrial estate where we are is predominantly sold out over the COVID period. The companies are now beginning to move in. So top of my head, I can't think. There's over 100 plots within the industrial estate. The Chinese are moving very fast in manufacturing into Thailand. They're taking a lot of space up. They're either moving facilities out of China, they're moving supply chain out of China. And common to that as well, the large manufacturing, Chinese manufacturing and Taiwanese as well, manufacturing companies, that area are moving, their manufacturing locations, which is taking the supply chain with it. What we're really seeing is I think a pace. So it is global. It's not just, I'm highlighting that there is a lot of Chinese activity, but there is a lot of activity. Industrial estates do not have land available for very long. And that is a trend that we're seeing. We're seeing it move very quickly. Availability of land and how much is there? There is still an expanse of land in the Eastern Economic Corridor. How much of it is identified for industrial land? How much of it is private for sale? A lot of the land is privately owned and would be developed, I'm sure, at a price I could not speak to. But Thailand is looking to also stretch with challenges that they have, the industrial manufacturing beyond Bangkok and further north. There are challenges that they're faced with doing that. But like I said, to really put it in a nutshell, things are moving very quickly. Land is appreciating quickly, becoming non-available. But industrial estates are planned. More will come, but they fill quickly. It's surprising how fast things are moving.
Yeah, hey, let me just add to that the fact that really a lot of Chinese companies are moving here because if they produce it in Thailand, they can avoid U.S. tariffs.
Yeah, that's plain and simple. I wanted, Brian, if I could just go back to the dual use technologies. So what we've tried to do is talk about these 12 S-curve industries, one of which is defense. Defense relies on the other 11, but there are 4 that we kind of quickly went over, and that was aviation and logistics. These are things that are going on now. Intelligent electronics like the smart washing machines, lots of appliances. There are robotic manufacturers here that are already BOI approved. They're producing sometimes for 10 and 15 years. The next generation, the Detroit of the East, is here, but it's now EV. It's EV motorbikes, automobiles, trucks, various factory rolling stock type equipment, and of course, digital. So if you're a defense contractor out there and you've got major non-NATO ally status with Thailand, when you sit down with the Board of Investment, there are actually sections in their book, in their outline that are specifically written for the defense industry. This is how proactive they are. And I think this is the really takeaway. So whether it's satellite or unmanned vehicles, UAV drones, just AI, there is definitely an application that you can leverage on the skill sets. A big part of Richard Jackson's comments was, can I get the people? What are the skill sets? And you've just heard testimonies from Greg and what's your name again? Bruce. Ben, about just, I think if Thai people like to work for American companies, and I think Ben's, provided that a leadership, and Greg has as well. But I think that's really the analog that we've been trying to present this evening. Attractive investment environment, great tax incentives. Even if you have to bump up on the minimum OECD 15%, there's still very attractive incentives on import tariffs, and just the ease of doing work, kind of just trying to guillotine a lot of the red tape. Thailand has embraced this, and we have a new government that's going to, I think, take it to the next level over these next 24 to 36 months. So.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. You got the red lines across the EV on the slide that you showed, and forgive the pun, they are driving EV hard, right? They are absolutely seeing that as they want Thailand to be the EV manufacturer for Asia, let alone anywhere else. They won't beat the Chinese, but certainly from a volume perspective, EV, anyone manufacturing anything to do with EV has a laundry list.
And there are a host of ways to come in. You can license your technology, you can do joint ventures, you can do 100% foreign owned. So when you're out at the Defense Expo in early November, tag on an extra day, go see one of those golf courses, but also, there are a number of tours, AmCham, U.S. Commercial Services, be glad to set that up for you and connect that. I think that's what's really relevant, or come a couple of days early. I think it's time well spent.
Hey,
go ahead,
Charles.
Brian.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. We have time for one quick one here. If somebody wants to take this. With all the new post-pandemic investment coming into the country, is there still room for more?
Yes.
A rhetorical.
Yeah, Greg, you can take it on, but I think, as I was briefly saying before, yes, there is. They're building for it. But Greg, you had a thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to, before we end the call, just an example here. We put in solar power for both Ben and my factories for free. Just a comment. You're talking about the incentives coming here. But as far as the room for investment after, yes, it's continuing. Yeah. When I came here 12 years ago, we had 3 in the hemorrhage district alone. We had 3 areas. We're now up to hemorrhage 7. And Ben, you can touch on that.
Yeah, and they're the industrial estates that Greg is referring to. So there are multiples. Richard, you have your hand up.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. We talk about new money coming in from new companies setting up, but from our perspective, we see just as much as companies expanding their existing operations or transferring operations into Thailand from overseas. This is a real huge growth area from companies that have realized just how effective they can be in Thailand, and rather than continue to run potentially loss-making operations elsewhere, they invest and double down on what they've got in Thailand. That's a huge area of expansion that we're seeing.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody, for all your thoughts. We definitely appreciate it. Next slide I'm going to put up is contact information. Again, I will be distributing all the information, bios, presentation shortly after the wrap up of our program here. As Charlie did mention, Kallman Worldwide will be organizing the Defense and Security Thailand 2023 USA Pavilion Presence. That show is taking place November 6th through the 9th, just outside of downtown Bangkok, about a 15-minute trip up to the Impact Center. Some of you on this call I know are already exhibitors. Looking forward to seeing you there, and happy to answer any questions that you might have about that event. Additionally, if you have an interest in having introductions made to Thai companies, for potential JVs, please reach out. And the gentleman on this phone call will help make those connections. Many thanks. At this time, we will be ending the presentation. Again, please look for those files to come into your mailbox a little bit later today. And if you have any questions, we look forward to answering them. Thank you all so very much, and enjoy the rest of your night or day.
Good.